Josh, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show, and congratulations on the test. What did you learn from the latest round of tests? Josh, let's start with you.
Well, we learned we can actually make Hyperloop work. So we based the whole company around getting to that moment where we showed the whole world that we were able to verify that the system worked. And that's what we set out to do, and that's what we did.
So, Shervin, what's the next step?
That's a great question. Josh and the team have been working really hard. He moved into the desert weeks ago. We're now 300 people strong. The last 2.5 years from starting the company has been about proving the technology works. Now we've shown at Hyperloop One that the Hyperloop is real, it works, and now we move into what we call the dawn of the commercialization of Hyperloop. So as all the travels that we've been doing and the conversations and dialogue and studies with governments around the world, we've shown in the videos that you saw the actual full-scale Hyperloop working with the pod XP1, traveling at incredible speeds, faster and faster, and now we move on to the commercialization process of actually building this out around the world.
So, Shervin, I have the ticket you gave me to ride the Hyperloop. When will I be able to use this?
Sooner than you think, but keep that ticket. That's a very special ticket, Emily, and you're guaranteed to have a ride on the Hyperloop with Hyperloop One. Mm-hmm. That's a promise from both me and Josh.
Yes.
All right. So, Josh, what is the timeline? When will you have it up and running for cargo and for passengers?
So the next phase for us is to actually move this into production space. So we have to make sure it can be reliable for 30 plus years and actually get it into a mass manufacturing market. So that's what's next for us on the engineering side, and we think we'll be able to do that by the 2021 timeframe.
Shervin, how do you overcome cost barriers and safety concerns?
It's a great question. We basically, the way that we have architected the Hyperloop is to make it the cheapest, fastest, safest, cleanest form of public transportation in the world. The way that we've designed it, the reason it can be cheaper is that the stators or the motors that we've designed only have to be on the line for every 30 kilometers. Whereas other solutions have continuous maglevs and motors that are way more expensive to operate, maintain, and build out. So what you'll see is a future that's very similar to what we've seen with Paris and Brussels being connected with high-speed rail, where there aren't even any flights anymore between those two cities. Everyone is taking the high-speed rail route. What's interesting about Hyperloop One is that our solution essentially will be an IP solution and a control system and automation solution. So we really want to engender thousands of companies around the world that are building these Hyperloops around the world using our technology.
Now, Elon Musk, of course, is the one who came up with the original white paper on Hyperloop technologies, and he's always said he doesn't want to commercialize the technologies, but now he has the Boring Company, and he recently tweeted, "Just received verbal government approval for the Boring Company to build an underground New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C. Hyperloop, New York to D.C. in 29 minutes. What do you make of his sudden apparent push into Hyperloop with the Boring Company?
So Hyperloop One is very focused on getting the actual Hyperloop, the real Hyperloop, out to the world. The world is a very big place. Infrastructure is very difficult to move forward. You need the collaboration of governments around the world. We've been in deep discussions with governments for a long time, and we can build it overground, underground. Tunneling is just one of those solutions. It's also a very expensive solution to just do tunneling. So we want to have a multimodal solution and spread that around the world.
So we're hearing from sources that Musk may actually want to build all the components. What would it be like to go up against him?
We are very, as you've seen, being able to do this in 2.5 years, have 300 brilliant minds. We are very focused on execution and building, and this is a movement. We want to be able to be a platform to allow many, many companies to be created. Tunneling companies, like you're describing, are one of those solutions, and there's probably many partnerships in that space to be pursued.
So, are you saying he's not involved in your efforts at this point? Like, when is the last time you guys spoke?
No, Elon is a friend. We communicate, and I'm a huge believer in him. And again, driving this forward. This is a multi-decade effort. It's going to take many brilliant minds and commitment from many people to push it forward. And there'll be multiple great companies that are supporting building this ecosystem. The infrastructure of the world is in dire need of these types of solutions. The world is held back by decrepit, decaying infrastructure that's been built, decades before, and we're very committed to that, as is Elon and many others.
Josh, give us a sense of the scope of your operation. How many people are working there now? How many people do you expect will be working there by the end of the year?
So we've been around for a little over 2.5 years now, and we have about 300 people that work there. We're split up among 3 sites, one in Los Angeles and then 2 in Las Vegas. All the videos that you saw today were from the test site in North Las Vegas. So we anticipate being up around probably 400 to 450 by the end of the year. And that really, it's about 2/3 or so engineers. And that allows us to continue to push, continue to develop, and really drive the manufacturing and the cost of this whole system to the price point that we know we can sell it for around the world. So there's a lot of work to be done, and we've spent the last basically 2.5 years building the system that you've seen, and we went from 70 to about 200 miles an hour in 11 weeks, and what rail took 70 years to do that. And so I think it's really a testament to the type of architecture that we've built, and then more test to the team that we've actually assembled.
And Emily, if you see the videos that we've shared today that are historic videos, this was just from Saturday, past Saturday, July 29th, you'll actually hear the sound of Hyperloop, and that's the sound of the future for us. It's a pretty incredible video.
So there has been some turnover, particularly on the tech and engineering side. How are you handling that reshuffling?
We've certainly had no shortage of people interested in working for us. I brought in a new SVP of hardware engineering who came from the Google X program and a few other things, as well as a new software lead starting in about a week and a half from now. So there's candidates knocking down the door, and as we continue to scale and as we grow the company, the more people and the more high-level talent we're able to attract because of the progress that we've shown and our ability to execute on that.
Now, the CTO did move on, and there was a lawsuit, and I'm curious, Shervin, what you learned from that experience and how you're moving forward.
We're incredibly focused, as Josh said, on building the real Hyperloop. Building it around the world, as we've shown with the major milestone of the XP1 pod, traveling at those speeds, breaking these speed records. We are very focused on the future, and that's all we care about.
Talking about the future, Shervin, I got to ask you. You are one of the earliest investors in Uber. What are your thoughts on Travis Kalanick's resignation, and who do you think is the right person to lead the company forward?
I think Uber is one of the great companies of our generation. The impact that it's had on the world, the scale at which it's reached. Every company has lessons that it learns in that kind of historic run. It's it is the fastest growing company in history, and at those speeds, you're going to reach some friction, and they've taken that very seriously. And I think it's one of the greatest opportunities for an incredible leader and CEO to come in and help lead a company that's at the forefront of where transportation solutions are going with self-driving cars and the battle that's going on there. It's one of the great kind of areas in technology and innovation in the world, and it'll be fun to watch.
I'm sure you've been following, I gotta ask you, I'm sure you've been following all these stories about sexual harassment in VC. What's been your reaction, and what do you think can be done to make sure these things don't happen?
We take it very seriously. as we've talked about our kids, my daughters, I care a lot about her and her future, and if anyone were to ever treat her differently because of her gender, I would be very upset. I don't think you want to see a upset father like me. So I care very, very much about this issue. Some of the things that we've done, we've held these diversity dinners. We had Reverend Jackson come, very focused on getting more people of color and women into venture, but also getting more new funds created by women and people of color. What Reverend Jackson said in our gathering at my home was that the fourth wave of the civil rights movement is about economic opportunity. And it takes more than pledges of words. It takes actual pledges of economic, opportunity. And some of those ideas you'll see coming out from that same group. And we're, looking at essentially building, syndicates that can help fund more funds created by women and people of color. And also funding of companies and entrepreneurs with diverse backgrounds. I've seen, as you and I have talked, just the systemic issues and the blocks that can happen to people of all diverse backgrounds and immigrants. I'm an immigrant refugee, and I've run into those types of blocks as we've talked about before. And I would never want that to happen to anyone.
All right, Shervin, thanks so much for fielding that. Shervin Pishavar, Josh Geigel, thanks so much for joining us. I've got my ticket. I'll see you on the Hyperloop when it's ready.
We'll see you there.
Thanks, Emily.
All right.